I want to thank you for holding this important hearing, and obviously for the witnesses, as always, for their contributions and their expert testimony. It's good to see you, sir. I also want to welcome Madam Chairwoman Administrator Fugate in his first hearing before this committee and his new position. Now, he's been doing this kind of thing before at a different level, and I'm actually very excited that now he's doing it here at the federal level. After Hurricane Katrina, Congress made it very clear that we needed a FEMA administrator who knows what he's doing and has the authority to get the job done. And the President, I think, found the best person in the country, a person who knows what he's doing, who has, I guess, unfortunately, a lot of experience dealing with large and small emergencies. And again, I have tremendous confidence in Administrator Fugate, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to working with him. And hopefully, he will not be too busy. That's something that we're obviously all hoping for. I also need to acknowledge the tremendous work that Congressman Gao has done to speed the recovery funding in Louisiana. We still have issues after that storm. You know, he's held several roundtables with FEMA, with state and local officials, and with members of Congress. I've been involved in some of them. And and he's helped free up hundreds of millions of dollars for those stricken by Katrina. He's also been working, Madam Chairwoman, closely with the experts such as the witness today, Mr. McCarthy of the Congressional Research Service, on possible changes and recommendations to the Stafford Act. Now, I believe many of the options that Mr. McCarthy will be presenting to the committee for reforming the Stafford Act are frankly a direct result of Congressman Gao's efforts, and again, I thank him for his aggressive involvement with this committee and these important issues. Thank you, sir. Now, obviously, as the chairwoman said, Katrina was a horrible, huge, devastating hurricane. Unfortunately, as we know, it is very unlikely that that will be the largest one that hits us, or the largest catastrophe, the most damaging one that hits our country. A Category 5 hurricane in South Florida could come at any moment, or an 8.0 earthquake in California, or a pandemic flu. And we keep hearing about pandemic flus right now. All those are possibilities that could hit us at any time. So while disasters, obviously that large, would stress the entire emergency management system. But I want to focus on a few important areas that are, I think, of the most concern. There needs to be, obviously, a clear federal chain of command, and that's essential during a catastrophic disaster. And it can be a critical point of failure, and as we saw during Katrina. I've mentioned this before, as I mentioned it earlier as well. You know, Congress changed the law to ensure that the nation has a qualified FEMA administrator who really knows what he's doing, who would coordinate the federal response on behalf of the President. Now, unfortunately, the President has yet to update the presidential directive on incident management, which is HSPD 5, to reflect this change. And DHS has built a duplicate incident management organization outside of FEMA. And Congress continuously tries to defund, and I'll get into that later. So as I recall, the entire reason FEMA had to be within DHS, that's what we were told, was so that we could use FEMA to manage the response. DHS and the government could use FEMA to manage the response to a terrorist attack. And yet, for the last 3 years, DHS has built a parallel incident command structure that bypasses FEMA. Again, makes no sense. Now, as a result, it's frankly not clear to me or to some of the witnesses, of our witnesses, who will be in charge, those who will be in charge to coordinate the federal response if the Secretary decides to appoint a principal federal officer known as a PFO during the disaster. Who would be in charge? FEMA or this outside PFO? This confusion, frankly, is a recipe for failure. And also, you know, another thing, Madam Chairwoman, the Department needs to follow the law. And I know you've even written letters to the President on this. Another critical issue I hope that we can address is the role of the Department of Defense. Now, during a mega disaster, Department of Defense forces will be needed quickly. Now, and I understand that there's an effort, well, first, obviously, what is the effort of DOD? They need to be they're available quickly, and we saw how well they responded during Katrina. And they have to be well coordinated with FEMA. And they also have to be in a supporting role to the states. The states, when they run out of resources, that's when you need DOD to come in, and if it's a big disaster, to come in big. I understand the Department of Defense is recommending a change in the way it would respond to a disaster. And I've also heard that that change, that potential change, has caused, frankly, considerable concern among a number of governors. And I have to admit that I share many of the governor's concerns. And so I hope that we can talk about that. Another critical failure, and this is something that the chairwoman has brought up many times. As a matter of fact, we had a hearing in South Florida, and you brought that up, Madam Chairwoman, to do with the housing issue. What to do with the 500,000 or over 1 million families forced out of their homes by one of these horrible, catastrophic disasters. Despite the release of a national disaster housing strategy, there is still no clear solution to addressing the housing issue at that scale. Now, I do need to commend FEMA for, I read that they're looking at other options, thinking outside the box, even looking at the possibility of, in some cases, using homes that may be under foreclosure. So I commend FEMA for thinking outside the box, but again, we need to make sure that we have a strategy for the big storm or the big event if it comes, or when it comes. Mitigation and preparation are other issues that must be examined and clearly improved. Earlier this year, I introduced the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System Modernization Act, along with the Chairwoman Norton and Representatives Gao, Guthrie, and Graves of this subcommittee. I also introduced the Safe Building Code Incentive Act. Both of these bills are intended to help prepare for a big storm and to mitigate against disasters. Providing incentives for states to enact building codes is frankly a very effective common sense way to minimize damage and the loss of life that a catastrophic disaster could entail, and we've seen that it does work. And developing a truly integrated public alert warning system is obviously critical to saving lives. Now, with countless methods of communication available today, Twitter, Facebook, email, et cetera, we're still using a 1950s model, which is that little beep that we hear on our TVs and our radios, and that's frankly it. Well, that's not enough, because there are more ways that we can communicate, and we need to do that. So the issues that I have raised impact disasters of all sizes, but the big one, the catastrophic disasters, magnify, obviously, their significance and their importance. So it is important for us today to determine if the current framework for emergency management is adequate for, again, catastrophic disasters, or should there be some more capabilities and flexibility built into the system. So I, again, hope that we will hear from our witnesses today on these and other issues. I want to thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for convening this meeting. Again, it's one of the issues that means a lot to all of us, but particularly those of us who live in states that are prone to disasters. Thank you.